want to fend for myself, and I want to build people up for them to fend. Welcome, everybody, to the Free Like Me podcast. I'm Clark Fredericks, your host. Guests come on, speak their truth, and leave free like me. If you are interested in the Free Like Me coaching program, reach out to me privately on my website, clarkfredericks.com, or on Instagram. Coming in 2025, summer of 2025, we just nailed down the date, July 29th. My book, Scarred, will be out. So I'll keep you up to date on when you can pre-order that. And if you find these podcasts helpful or interesting, I would ask that you like them and hit the share button and share them with others. We want to continue to grow this and get more followers. And we want our guests to feel supported when they come on. You know, they're sharing their deepest, darkest secrets. And I think it's only right for us to support them in their journey. So please share and please tell your friends about it. And let's continue to grow. And this week, I am honored to have from Alberta, Canada, my guest, Linda. She reached out to me on Instagram, told me about just a tragic story that occurred in her family's life. We'll get into that in a moment. So let me welcome Linda to the podcast. Hey, Linda.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, dear. So tell me what life is like up in Alberta. Is it starting to get cold up there?
Oh, it was -1 this morning, so.
You're already in the minus?
Just
We're at 80 degrees today in New York.
Oh, yeah, not here. Snow's coming tomorrow.
Oh, boy. How cold does it get in the wintertime?
It's not uncommon for -40.
-40. Wow.
Yeah.
It's gotta be tough to live. You got to be tough to live up there.
As we get older, we're not as tough.
Yeah, I used to love the winters as a kid, and then just now I don't have the patience for them anymore. Is that how you feel too up there?
Yeah. I'm too old for that stuff at this point. I'm like, let's just have some sun and sand.
Yeah, I'm with you. Wow, -40 in the winters. Eesh.
Mm-hmm.
So let's I know we have a lot to cover with your story. So let's get going on it so we can cover it all. Just tell me about your family dynamics. Are you married? How many kids? Ages of your kids?
So I'm married for 23 years, and my children are 20, 22, and 16.
This is a little different take, on the normal, abuse story I cover or tragic suicide or car accident. But this is tragic nonetheless. And I'm sure for you, it probably almost feels like a death in the family, doesn't it?
It does. But with the death in the family, there's an end. And with this, there is no end. So, it's, I can honestly say that we've had to figuratively put the cross in the ground in order to get some movement for, like, some closure for ourselves.
So let's get into it. Your daughter, is this the 20-year-old or the 22-year-old?
No, this was my 14, now 16-year-old.
Oh, 14, now 16. Okay. I'll let you start, what happened, what you found, and then where it went from there. Why don't you take over?
I recognize this isn't your normal story. So I should probably back up by just simply saying that, I come from a native family, who dealt with a lot of trauma growing up. So I did everything in my power to make sure that my children didn't live that way. Was I perfect? No. Did my children wake up in a home where abuse was an issue, where alcohol or drugs was an issue? No. Because I knew what that looked like, because I grew up in it. And so I made a point to make sure that, our home life was stable, like that we were always a family and we always had each other's back. And so we come from a, middle-class family, work in oil fields, mom and dad go to work every day, kids go to school, whatnot. Pretty normal. And yet it still happened to us, no matter what I tried to do to avoid my children suffering in any way.
That generational curse.
Yes.
seems to follow us even when we try to like avoid it.
Yes. Yes. Yes, absolutely. Like I said, well, I wasn't perfect, but I did my best, and with each child I just got to be a better parent. Um, so with my youngest, this came as a complete shock, because she was a good kid. I never had any problems with her. And she was 14 years old. Well, she was 13 when she was targeted. Um, she was 13 when she was targeted. Um, yeah, we had the type of relationship where lying wasn't a thing. I mean, I'd already had two teenagers, so, it was pretty easy by then. So my daughter, so do you want me just to kind of get into how it happened?
Well, what happened? She got a boyfriend, and then her behavior started to change, and then you actually found stuff on her phone. Is that where you can pick up from there?
Yeah, so in April of 2022, my daughter came to us and she wanted to, date a little boy, and she was very mature about it. And so, because she didn't hide it, we gave her permission. With the safety things put in place, making sure teenagers aren't left alone and whatnot. As far as we understood, that was all being followed by the other parents of the teenage boy. The teenage boy wasn't the problem. Early on, so in late May, so a month later, after these kids started dating, I started seeing red flags with the boyfriend's mother, a 36-year-old female woman, mother of 4. And she would say things like, why don't our kids just get married? Our values are very much the same. We can sign off on it. And at first I thought it was a joke, and, thinking this is her first teenager, she's just learning how to parent teenagers. And so, I scuffed it off as that. And my daughter really looked up to this woman. So I was reluctant about the whole thing, but how do you get a teenager away from someone who she idolizes? So, so we started seeing some.
Now, was the boy 14 also?
I know he was 15 at the time.
So 1 year older. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And,
not bad.
No, and he was a good kid.
Okay.
So he was a good kid, but there were some red flags, which I later realized that it was the mother fueling. At 15 years old, this little boy would go down to the lake to find my daughter with her friends, who happened to be male and female, and then he would call her out for being in public with other males. And we thought it was possessive and jealous, and at first we thought it was the child who was the problem, but that wasn't the case. It was. We didn't see it because we were too close to the situation. It was the mother who was driving the entire possessiveness and jealousy towards the child and towards my child. So it started becoming an attachment issue for my daughter and the boyfriend, and my daughter feeling unsafe and not feeling like she could get out of the relationship. And of course, if you've had children, that you can't just rip her out of that situation and say you're not going back, because, they're always going to go back. So we tried to let it take the natural course of they'll break up and this will be over with. Unfortunately, it didn't happen that way. When the mother of the other child realized that I had a lot of issues with her behavior, that's when she became nicer, started hiding things more, and was working with my daughter in the background to segregate us. So as an example, Christmas came, and this woman asked me, okay, well, hey, here's the, this is what I'd like to get her. Did you get her, this perfume? And I was like, yes, I did. For Christmas, my daughter was pressured to being at this woman's house. And the woman bought her like $2,000 worth of gifts, and she would call her daughter-in-law. My child was 14 years old, and she would be out in public, and this woman would say, oh yeah, hey, yeah, this is my daughter-in-law. And this is a mother of 4, married for, I think, 15 years. It's not like she has just babies at home. So we had problems with things with that behavior. The woman was creating Snapchat accounts and messaging my daughter on Snapchat. So it would disappear. Having family relationships with my child, including my child in family decisions. And of course, we didn't know about any of this until all of it was too late, where her hooks were in, and essentially we could never compete with the woman that my daughter idolized.
And then how did it escalate to the next level? Like, what made you want to check her phone? What did you suspect she was lying about stuff? How did the whole phone thing and the videos come out?
So we had been noticing a difference in my daughter for about 9 months, and we tried to reach her. We just couldn't. And she was just, being more and more disrespectful. She wasn't following rules, and she was a good kid. So finally,
so so this is 9 months in. She went from initially coming home like he's possessive in public and yelling about me hanging out with boys and girls and doesn't think it's right, to now she's like jumped the fence to their side and starting to lie to you about what she's doing and where she's at and what's going on.
Yes, yes. And what led to me checking her phone was the days leading up to me checking the cell phone. My daughter wouldn't come home. And she would say, and I'd ask, well, where were you? You're supposed to be home at 5 p.m. It's 8 p.m. And she goes, well, what's the big deal? I was with so-and-so's mom. Just driving around talking about life and what it's like to get married and how women are supposed to be at home, about her having babies. And I was completely dumbfounded. I thought this was a really inappropriate conversation. I had texted that parent and said, I want my child home at this time. She didn't care to listen to my rules. And
this is the boy's mother who didn't care.
Yes. Yeah.
Did she flat out tell you, I don't care?
No, she goes, oh, we'll be there soon. She kept on delaying it. Oh, we're running late. Oh, I need to do this with the boys. And when I would say, I will go and get her, she'd say, well, we're not there. So I figured, okay, we'll leave it alone. My child comes home that evening, is extremely disrespectful. And I said, okay, I can't do this anymore. I can't reach you. I don't know what else to do. I've tried everything. So how about this? So tomorrow, you're not going to go to school. We're going to sit down. We're going to spend time together. We're going to connect. We're going to figure out what the problem is. Is there anything I can do to help you? Let's take the day. Let's spend it together. And I said, and in the meantime, you're going to leave your phone on the mantle. And that's where my 14-year-old got extremely, extremely upset and said, no, why? Why would I have to do that? Now, I didn't make a habit of checking my 14-year-old's phone. I will admit I didn't, because I had so much trust in the child that I didn't think that I needed to. Like, unless she gave me a reason to, I didn't look. And so she puts the phone on the mantle and she's very angry. And she goes, oh, well, you can go ahead and check it. And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to. Like, I really just want to watch TV tonight and have a glass of wine. I really don't want to be dealing with teenage stuff. And my then 17-year-old son looks at me and says, well, Mom, now you have to check it. She's hiding something. I thought, oh, great. Okay, so that's what led to me going to the phone, opening the phone, and thinking that I find just a vaping video. Okay, it's not allowed in our house, but, it's not the worst thing in the world. So I confront her about this vaping video, or multiple vaping videos posted on social media with a bunch of school friends. And that's when I think I have a problem with a kid vaping. That's when the messages start arriving on Snapchat. Like, ding, ding, ding. The boyfriend is messaging saying, what's the code word? What's the code word? Is this my daughter's name? And I'm like, whoa, why would they need to do that? What is going on? What has happened that there's a code word now just in case she loses her phone? And I thought, this is really odd. So I'm not really sure understanding what's going on. So I open the messages. Well, I clearly can see that there's an issue where they've talked about something. And at the same time, the mother of the boyfriend was also messaging saying, so did you get in trouble? What did your mom say? Was she okay? Are you grounded? Thinking, okay. And at this point, I'm really upset. And I remember feeling just really nauseous. And so I say, okay, well, this is enough. I'm going to call my husband. My husband works rotation away for 6 weeks at a time. So the only time he participates in family stuff at home is really through the camera and via phone call. So because he's away for 7 months a year. And so I call him up. I say, we have a problem. Can you please get on the cameras? You need to watch what's going on. And I start to go through. So my husband's there, my son's there. I start to go through my daughter's phone. And I'm seeing a few red flag things, some nudity. And I say, okay, well, I'm going to stop. And I sorry. It's actually really difficult to really relive this. More difficult than it's been a while. So I decide to take a step back and I tell my daughter, okay, you're not dating anymore. You're grounded for the time being. You won't be talking, you won't be having your phone. And so I tell the boy on Snapchat, I say, look, so-and-so, we'll call him, I don't know, we'll call him Bob. His name's not Bob, but we'll tell Bob that, this is the case, you're grounded. So I I message him on Snapchat and say, hey buddy, I'm sorry, but my daughter's, recent behavior, she won't be going anywhere and she won't be allowed to date, for the time being. And I say, I'm sorry, buddy. I just didn't want you to think that she was ghosting you. And he gets angrier and angrier. And I'm thinking that should be the end of it. It isn't the end of it. He goes on to say, he says, what are you? Some sort of pedophile. I was like, how did we get here? How did we get here? And so I'm confused. So I start scrolling. Now, admittingly, I hadn't used Snapchat in a while. It's not a platform I use. So, and it was an iPhone and I'm an Android user. So here I am. I'm like, okay, scrolling. I'm like, okay, I'm not really sure how to do everything on an iPhone. And I'm coming across nudity and child inappropriate material, pornography. So as I keep going and I'm like, oh boy. And then something in my brain tells me I need to take a recording of like what it is that I'm seeing with another device. Because again, I don't know how to use Apple very well. And so as I scroll further and further, I'm getting into the messages and they kept everything. The kids didn't delete a thing. In the meantime, his mother is still messaging, saying, oh, I just heard, is this true? What's the code word? And then my brain says, let's start looking. And I start looking and I start seeing the messages where the mother is sending my child tutorials on how to please a man. So she's fully clothed, but she's demonstrating on how to please a man. And I was so shocked I couldn't say anything. It was more or less like I think I was just in my body trying not to blow up as I'm seeing this, because you're not prepared for these sorts of things. As I continue to look through the phone.
So the boy's mother is demonstrating on a video that she's sending to your daughter how to give oral.
That's exactly what she was doing. Yep.
Yeah, how to have sex. She's like simulating it with her clothes on how to do it.
Yes, and also like in the downward dog position on the best way to get pregnant, and it was so surreal. It was a nightmare. I honestly thought I was nuts at the moment. So I'm seeing all of these things, and I don't even know, without 100% certainty, without going back, where exactly or who exactly, if it was a group chat or if it was in my my daughter's account with her boyfriend or with the mother, or but at one point in time, as I'm scrolling, I'm seeing these videos pop up, and I click on the video, and going, okay, and it starts for a few seconds, and immediately I figure out what it is, and I stop it right then and there, because no parent wants to see their child in explicit material. But at one point there was a screenshot or a picture, and it had the adults, the boyfriend's mother and the boyfriend's dad in the video. The dad was laying on the couch while the kids were on the floor, performing sexual acts, and the mother was videotaping the whole thing. So there were a number of these videos on the phone.
And are the boys' parents like coaching them, like do this, do that? Are they talking to them while they're doing? Are the kids fully undressed?
Yeah, the kids are fully undressed. Yeah. Yes.
And the boys' parents are there watching their naked son and his naked 14-year-old girlfriend have sex, and they're just watching it, filming it
in their living room. Yeah, in their living room. So I don't know if they were giving tutorials, because I did not watch the videos. I stopped it. I couldn't watch the videos, obviously. I estimate there was at least 4.5 hours of videos from what I had seen. So I didn't watch those. But there was enough pictures, still pictures, to see what was going on. I never in a million years thought this could happen. It's completely unimaginable. So after everything that we found, that I found, I was smart enough to take evidence of it. I recognize that is child pornography, but what else are you going to do? Because if they delete it, it's gone. So I'm taking videos and pictures of the screen that I'm seeing, and without actually saving the videos, to show that this was on the phone. Because what if they delete things? Because now the kid is upset. He's telling me off via Snapchat, and I'm keeping him going the entire time so that he doesn't delete the messages. So I just keep looking. He wasn't very smart. He kept on arguing with me while I was scrolling through, but I was only delaying it so I could get the evidence of what I was seeing, because it was unimaginable. So, and at the same time, again, the mother was still messaging, and I tell her, this is mom. The relationship's done. I have a major problem with my daughter's behavior, with your behavior. We're done. I don't want you contacting my child again. And so she stopped for that night, but her son did not. After this horrific incident, so this lasted for hours, I tried to confront my daughter, but when
did you confront her that night, or did you wait till the morning, like you told her you're not going to school, we're going to sit and talk? Did you wait till then, or did you had to say something that night?
No, actually, I didn't wait till the next night. I actually found all of this stuff in her presence. So she was standing in front of me as I'm seeing it, and I'm telling her what her boyfriend is responding. And she was just shaking her head going, oh my goodness gracious, why is he
you're watching these videos in front of her?
She doesn't know that I'm seeing them. She had no idea, because my reaction was quiet. I didn't show her the phone, so the phone was facing this way, and I had the volume all the way down. So she was 7 feet in front of me. And so I was on the couch, and she was at the other end of the room, and I'm scrolling, and I'm seeing this, and my face was shock and awe. This is what my husband says. He was watching, holy, did that just happen? What? I didn't raise you like this. And those were the comments that were coming out of my mouth. I, at no point in time, let her know that I knew about the adults in the videos. So I don't know. I can honestly say that I don't know why that is the case. Maybe it was me protecting me. Maybe if I said those words, who knows, right? Because of the state of mind. I was in a trauma state. I didn't know that at the time, but I was in a trauma state. So I didn't let her know what I was seeing. I believe to this day she thinks that I've seen everything on that phone, and I don't think that I've even seen 10% of what was on that phone. I really, because eventually became too much. Eventually, after I don't know 3-4 hours of seeing this stuff and this kid arguing with me and taking the evidence, it was just too much. I finally had to say, I can't do this anymore. I need a break. And unfortunately, in this state of mind, I did say something that I'm not very proud of. I did say, I didn't raise you to be a whore. And I'm extremely ashamed of that, but
I think most parents would probably say something along those lines. I didn't raise you to be a slut or a whore. I don't think it's. I think saying whore is almost appropriate.
Right. And I've been told that. I still feel really crappy about it, but I did say this. I walked away. I walked away from the situation because I was not able to cope anymore. When I walked away from the situation, the I will fully admit that my brain was saying, I just really, really want to hold this woman accountable. So I walked away. I went to go grab my keys on the counter, and my child's behind me about 10 feet. I go to grab my keys, and at the same time, there's a glass or something, and it falls to the ground. And it was the greatest feeling in the world. It was the greatest sound in the world at that moment, because it allowed me to disconnect from what it was that I was experiencing and feeling, from everything I'd just seen. And then my daughter reaches over to go and grab the cell phone that I had placed on the counter, which was her cell phone. I guess I must have put it down while I was grabbing keys or something. And my reaction was grab the cell phone and, okay, turn around and let's throw it into the sink, into a pot of water, and drown it. I don't know why I thought that. I have no idea, but I didn't want this to be seen by anyone. I didn't, I just wanted this stuff gone. I didn't want my child to have access to that parent plus the boyfriend. I just wanted it gone. So this was my reaction. I took the phone out, and I placed it on the counter, and she was stunned, and I started beating it, like breaking it. And then I threw it back in the sink, and then I proceeded to leave. And I was gone for about 4 hours or 6 hours. I didn't come back till the morning. And I went to a friend's, had to decompress, go through what it is that I experienced. And if that wasn't hell in itself, that was the mild version of the next year and a half of my life. Because if that wasn't bad enough, the next day I did the right thing. I stayed in my room. As soon as 8 o'clock came around, I started calling counselors, psychologists, child and family services, everyone I could to get my daughter the help. Because in my mind, I worried about why it is that she was allowing herself to be treated so poorly. In one of the videos, there was something called ragdolling. And I didn't know what that was. It was a teenage boy who had to explain it to me. And this was a sexual position, obviously, like ragdolling, choking, whatnot. And so I proceeded to get my child, or try to attempt to get my child help. When I called for help, the counselor asked me to go through the situation. I went through the situation. And at the end of the call, she says, do you realize that your child's a victim? And I was like, what? No. Because I didn't fully understand that my child was a victim yet, because my brain had put it in a box that there were adults in these videos. And I said, well, that doesn't make any sense. So she sent me some links in that. So I take a look at it, about exploitation, about grooming, what it looks like. And I'm like, nah, this can't be. Like, how could I have missed this, right? And so we book an appointment for the counseling, and I proceed to call 2 other counselors. Each counselor, I did not tell that I had made a previous phone call. or what I had heard, because I just had a hard time believing it. They all said the same thing. They all said that the children were victims of exploitation and grooming, and that although I'm upset that I would never blame my child for being raped, it's the same thing. And I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't prepared for that. In my brain, I had thought that, okay, well, my child is taking part in things I'd rather her not take part in, meaning, sex and having sex at an early age. And again, because my brain didn't want to say there were adults involved. It took a while for me to come to that realization. Yes, I realized it in the moment, but then it just got put on the back burner because I wasn't ready to cope with it. And it was probably good at the time, but the counselors told me, you need to call Child and Family Services. You need to let them know what's happened. This needs to be investigated. And they'll be able to give you some resources. And I said, okay. So I follow up with a phone call to Child and Family Services, and now I have a lot of experience with them. I grew up with a social worker in my life as a kid. So to me, they were angels. They saved my family when I was a kid. So I had no reason to worry. It wasn't a problem. Me calling them, I had a 2-hour phone call with them. They said, you're doing everything right. Now we need you to file a police report. Hell hadn't begun. Hell hadn't begun until hell began minutes after that report to the RCMP.
RCMP is Royal Canadian National Police?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I called the police and I said, look, I've been advised to call you because you're going to get a phone call, because the people I've spoken to who I booked the appointments with for the counseling are going to have to report what occurred, and they've asked me to do it first. So they have meetings with my child this week. And he said, okay, go ahead. And what I want you to do is go and get a restraining order against the mother of the child. And I said, okay. And then what happens? And he said, then you're going to come in, and he said, then I'll take an official statement. And so I had walked him through the stuff I'd found on the phone. And everything seemed good. Everything was like, yeah, we're good. We're good to go for an official investigation, tomorrow, I go get the restraining order, and whatnot. And, it didn't turn out that way. He proceeded to put me on a 45-minute hold where he was apparently tapped on the shoulder. So the police officer was tapped on the shoulder and said by one of the colleagues that I have experience with restraining orders. Don't bother with me. So essentially I'm a problem, right? So he figured I'd hang up. I never hung up. So when he came back and said, okay, well, you just need to come in tomorrow while you have experience with this. I'm like, what are you talking about? No, I don't. I've never got a restraining order. Once a decade ago, I don't know. And I don't know. And so okay, that's the end of it. We'll move on tomorrow. Well, what I didn't know would happen, because again, I didn't make an official statement. I was asking for what it is that we need to do moving forward in order to start an investigation, and had to give him some details. When I hung up the phone, he proceeded to call the woman who was seen in the videos. I could not have known this unless that same woman told an acquaintance of mine who Facebook messaged her and said, it's a joke, they're laughing at her, this and that. And I thought, this can't be real. Why would a police officer interfere with an investigation? Why would he go and tell the accused that these phone calls were made? I really didn't understand why this was happening. So me being me, I emailed the police officer and said, what the fuck are you doing? Literally, I wasn't politically correct. What the fuck are you doing? you can't tell me you didn't do this because here's the screenshots of the woman. There's no way she could know this unless you spoke to her. And then I call him right as the office opens. And I said, did you get my email? He says, I'm just reading it now. And I record the entire conversation and I'm tearing him a new one. I'm like, dude, do you realize this is children, right? He proceeded to ask me for the child pornography, that he wasn't interested in hearing about the adults. He was not interested in hearing anything about the adults. There was no investigation, no real investigation. They wouldn't take the evidence. So I've spent the last 20 months fighting for my child alone. I failed to mention the fact that the morning of this situation, while I was on the phone calling the counselors and that, my daughter ran away. That's how we lost.
I was just going to ask you, like,
I'm so
did your daughter, what happened the next morning with your daughter? Did she split? And she split.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I had this all down chronologically, but when you're nervous. So the morning after this happened, while I was giving us space, I didn't come down till 1:00 in the afternoon, because I figured that was probably best, given the situation, while I was making phone calls. While I was on the phone, I received a message from another parent saying, hey, your daughter's over at my house. And I'm like, what? I know I have a security system. I still don't know how she bypassed it. I have no idea how I did not know she left the house. But either way, she left the house. She went to a friend's. And that was when I get this text message and I say, okay, well, I'm going to come and get her in a bit. And at that moment, as I'm trying to manage the situation with counselors, police, with child and family services, trying to wrap my mind around all of this, I receive a phone call from a woman who's an acquaintance, who is my daughter's best friend's stepmom. And she says, she's just acting quite normal. And I'm in a state of shock still at this point. And she says, so I'm halfway to where your daughter is. And at the time I didn't catch it. And I tell her a little bit about the situation without going into detail because it's none of her business and I don't want to shame my child. So this woman proceeds, and we'll call her Debbie. Debbie decides to go and get my daughter. Now, I tell her no. She goes to get my child, and regardless of what I say, and she says, don't worry, I'll bring her out to the acreage. She can stay with me for a night or two, and you guys can calm down and work this out. I didn't want my child picked up by her. This is the same woman who the boyfriend's mother had messaged about the police and how it was a joke, and she knew about the police investigation. So the boyfriend's mother messaged Debbie that night, the night before, and basically told her everything that in her version. And so now Debbie was now involved, and I didn't know this at the time. So she decides to go and get my child, and I tell her no. She goes and gets her anyway.
She went to her house, did she drop her off she didn't drop her off at the boyfriend's house?
Yes, actually, Debbie did bring her to the boyfriend's house, I guess to have a conversation. I guess it was like an hour long or something, and then took her to her house. And a few hours later, I start getting messages from Debbie saying, can you bring her stuff? Can you bring her blanket? Can you bring her this? And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? What do you mean? I didn't even give you permission to take my daughter. Like, now you're trying to move her in with you? So, and we haven't, the last date we seen my child was April 29th, 2023. We have never seen her.
So you never saw her again after that day?
No, I have not seen my daughter since April 29th of 2022. And she is
over a year and a half.
Yep. And she lives 3.5 hours away.
With who's she living with?
She is with Debbie.
Supposedly with Debbie still.
Mm-hmm. She is with Debbie and her husband, and I've done everything humanly possible to get my child back. I involved police. I didn't know it was against the law to harbor a minor child in Canada. It is. And the police wouldn't help me get my child back at all. I've never beat my child. I've never hurt my child. Nothing. She was ashamed. I get that. But I got no help. I got absolutely, absolutely no help in regards to getting my child back. And the reason for that is because it is my belief that we stumbled on a child trafficking ring within the Child and Family Services system and the RCMP within Alberta. That my child somehow it was accident. She wasn't meant to be part of that. It's just the fallout of it, because I fought so hard. I was charged and arrested. I want to make that very, I want to make that apparent. So these people, so Debbie and the boyfriend's mother, the lengths that they went to in order to keep me away from my child, they had filed false allegations against me to the RCMP with no evidence. The RCMP had an issue with me because I don't sit down and shut up. I just want answers. I recognize that things aren't black and white. Sometimes
And what did they charge you with?
They charged me with, it was assault with a weapon. Apparently Debbie had said that I had hit my child with a weapon. Never happened. Theft of a cell phone, which never happened. And oh God, there was another one.
Well, I'm sure the cell phone was in your name, so when you smashed it, I mean, it was probably you and your husband's name, right? She didn't have it she didn't buy it, I'm sure. You were the ones that probably bought a 13, 14-year-old their cell phone, correct?
Yeah, it actually wasn't her cell phone. It was actually Debbie's stepdaughter's cell phone that they claimed I stole. Which didn't make any sense to me because I didn't steal a cell phone. And then it was
now the cell phone that you found all the stuff on Snapchat, that was Debbie's daughter's, or that was your daughter's that you had
that
bought?
Was my daughter's that we had bought.
So are they charging you for that, for smashing that phone, or no?
No, it was that's just the thing. Those are the questions I didn't even have, because when I was charged and arrested, I get a phone call at 10:30 at night saying they need to come and give me the police need to come and give me something. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I'll meet you out in the driveway. I don't want a police officer coming to my door, especially the one that was calling. Small community of 15,000. So it's not hard to know who's who. And so they come to the door, or they come to the driveway, and they say, well, we're arresting you. And I'm like, for what? And they say Debbie and her husband and the other teenager in that home are all claiming this, and so is your daughter. I'm like, what? No evidence. Very, very vague charges, very vague. So they wanted to interview me. I said, no, I will get a lawyer first. And I thought, this is crap. They did this in order to get essentially a restraining order, a no contact order between me and them.
I was just going to say, did you ever try driving to their house to go get your daughter or talk to your daughter?
Not at that point. No, I had already been trying without being doing any official for 3 months, for just about 3 months, from January through to April. I had been fighting them for my child. And on April 29th is when I said, enough is enough. I went to the school and I went to take my daughter. The only problem is that the RCMP and the family that she was with kept her from me. And so on April 29th, when I went to the school to get my child, the 30th, I apologize. She was not there. Of course, I panicked, trying to find out where she is. Nobody would tell me. The people who she was living with wouldn't tell me anything. She was not apparently there. So I filed a missing persons report. The RCMP called me and told me that she had been taken by Child and Family Services. I called Child and Family Services and I say, you have my child. What the hell's going on? And they say, we don't have your child. And I said, what are you talking about? Because I have a recorded phone call that you do. And I play the recording and she goes, what? And I said, either way, I don't give a crap. I need help. I have a child missing. And the RCMP is saying, you have her, you've heard this. And she goes, I'm going to get on the phone and try calling. She calls the RCMP. The RCMP tell Child and Family Services, we're not going to tell you where she is. And they're like, well, why did you tell the parent we took her? We didn't take her. We didn't know anything about this. We didn't know she was missing. Why would you involve us in that? And so we got nowhere. It was on the 3rd of May. I believe it was the 3rd of May, where I was officially charged and arrested for assault with a weapon, uttering threats, and a theft of a cell phone with no evidence. So I had to stay away from their place of work, my daughter's place of work, school, their house, everything. So no matter what I did, I couldn't reach my child whatsoever. Now, this didn't involve my husband. It only involved me because my husband works away. So I did everything humanly possible. My husband then had to deal with RCMP and with those people. They weren't able to get anything against my husband. So, but I was not able to be in contact with my daughter till November of this year. I believe it was November 17th when we went to court and the judge threw out all charges without merit, because I said, when I was charged, I refused to hire a criminal lawyer until I got the disclosure in my hands. And anyone who's dealing with police, that's the first thing I tell people: don't rely on your lawyer. Get the disclosure in your hands, because I got the disclosure in my hands. I got to see the 96-page report from the police officer who interviewed my child. I also then got to see the video disclosure, which did not match the written disclosure from the police officer. So much so that I think there were only three points that matched. So when I caught these, I had hired a lawyer at this point, and I said, hey, look, I said, did you catch these? And he said, I don't have time to look at all those videos. And he said, I actually think you don't need me. He said, I'll walk you through the process. He said, but I don't feel right. And this is my family lawyer at the time. I don't feel comfortable taking your money knowing that you've got this. You're on top of this, we're good. So I'm going to walk you through. We'll go to court. Of course, the first one got pushed off. And then the second one, the judge threw it out without merit, and was dumbfounded as to how it was plain Jane, individual person, could catch all of the mistakes that had occurred with no evidence. The Crown was pushing for me to be charged and spend 5 to 14 years in jail for something I did not do. All because I found child pornography of my child and another child on a cell phone, which I never asked for.
And how about when your husband came home? Was he able to, go see your daughter or to contact Debbie and her husband?
They would call the police on my husband all the time. They would call the police and say that we were harassing them. We would have to call and get wellness checks done, because we didn't know. And then the police weren't happy with us. They were saying, that we're the problem. And it's like, no, we want our child home. This is a case of a child feeling shamed and embarrassed of what we found. We need to deal with that as a family. And he wasn't able to get anywhere. So he too has only seen my child twice since April.
Where did he get to see her?
So once at court and once in person. When Child and Family Services, because here's the thing is, even though Child and Family Services here in Alberta doesn't have a very good reputation, I felt that I needed them involved, because I needed someone watching over my child. So I involved Child and Family Services. I pushed and pushed and pushed for them to be watching over my child. It took them 3 months to get involved. And then they claimed that my child was apprehended. My child was never apprehended, never once apprehended. So that led to even more chaos and crisis within the situation of trying to bring my daughter home and getting her the help she needed and getting her away from the people who she was with. Now, the people she's with, I've asked Child and Family Services to look into their past. The people she's with have a history of parent alienation, grooming, manipulation with 2 other children. It's fact, not fiction. The parent who lost the two other girls that are in that home has advocated for us. It's gone on deaf ears. The man who my child lives with apparently had a sexual relationship with a 15-year-old while he was a soldier in Iraq, and when it was found out, he was sent home. And these are things that were proven and by his ex-wife. They were shown to Child and Family Services, and yet they have still kept my child away from me because they don't want to look at the fact that they've failed. I reported everything. They failed to look into it. They failed to do anything. And we couldn't understand why. But we started putting the connection together that one of the supervisors within Child and Family Services has a history of child trafficking. I found this out from another parent. That's how we came to the conclusion of the child trafficking, was that another parent had told us her experience without knowing anything about us. And she said she became an addict and she lost her child, and this is what, that her child had been taken by a Child and Family Services worker that was dating her husband. And she's telling me her story. This is in the middle of nowhere. I was checking into a hotel when this woman came to me, and for a lighter. And she was telling me her story, and she tells me the name of the Child and Family Services worker, and my jaw must have hit the floor, because it was the same worker that was claiming that my child was apprehended. And I'm going, are you telling me that Child and Family Services is involved in child trafficking? And she said yes. And then she gave me the name of the police officers involved. And she said she's reported it. And so I started looking deeper and deeper. And, I reported what I knew. And a police officer was charged and arrested with child pornography back in April of this year. The same police officer that I had accused of taking part in child trafficking or child pornography. It's a complicated situation where our child came from a loving, supportive home and fell into the grips of what we believe to be a child trafficking ring, orchestrated by the boyfriend's father. That is what we believe. With the child pornography, we don't know whatever happened with the child pornography because the RCMP would not investigate. Now, I didn't stop there. I brought it to other organizations, human rights organizations, plus the Joy Smith Foundation here in Canada, in order to look into this, to have it properly investigated. Unfortunately, we're still a long ways away, and we're no further ahead to seeing our child. It's been a complete.
Do you know if she's still dating that boyfriend?
As far as I understand, she is not.
She is not with him.
Yeah, but I would have been told that she still has contact with the boyfriend's mother, which is very concerning. I don't know that to be true. I'll be honest, when people try to communicate with me about my child, I often have to shut them down because it's just too much. It's too much to hear.
I mean, I can understand, like you trying to stop, puppy love from going on, which is puppy love has gone to a new level with the videos and stuff. But if that relationship's over now, I'm surprised she hasn't come to her senses. But if she's got this lady Debbie and her boyfriend's mother, both chirping in her ear and who knows, brainwashing her about you. How about her with her siblings? Has she had any contact with her siblings?
She has not spoken to her 20-year-old brother. She's spoken to him once in a year over the phone. Her sister, I believe she's had maybe 5-6 contact with. That's it. I think once in person and then over the phone. Or that's it. Like my in this entire year and a half, my daughter does believe that I showed explicit material of her and her boyfriend. I shared it everywhere. When we went to court, that was something that she had or the lawyer had put in there saying that mother had shared this and CFS had said this. Now, I was just in court actually on Friday, and I actually spoke to the judge and I said, I don't understand what the problem is. And the judge said, what do you mean you don't know what the problem is? I said, I've been very clear. My child was exploited. And she goes, well, I don't believe that. And I said to her, well, it doesn't matter what you believe. I know this to be fact. And there was no proper investigation done. And I said, my child is being told that we shared this information, but where's the proof? Can we put that person on the stand that is telling my child that I did these things? Can we put them on the stand? And can they prove that without a shadow of a doubt? Because I've opened my entire life in my entire cell phone, every conversation. At no point in time have I ever shared anything, not even with my husband. My husband to this day does not know the degree of the pornography that was on that phone, because I didn't feel it was appropriate for me to share such details with her dad. That's not what little girl or dads and little girls should be, have in their minds.
This is probably every parent's nightmare, that a teenage daughter falls in love and wants to be with a boyfriend and leaves the house, and then the boyfriend's parents file these charges against you and basically block you from getting your kid back. It's like a horror story.
The way I explain it best is, imagine one day that the woman that you sit next to at church comes knocking on your door. She's trusting, she's loving, she's caring, but she's the devil itself, and she sits next to you at church. This is not a stranger who came to my door or came and took my child out of a mall. This is a woman who is well known in the community, kind of like your situation, where they're upheld to a certain standard, and nobody wants to believe that this individual could do this, and yet they have, because they sit next to you at church. They seem like a God-fearing, good citizen who just values a relationship with children and would never hurt them. But the devil lives next door. And then the devil lives, within the home my daughter's at. My daughter, I'm told, is suffering from, I've been told, Stockholm syndrome. I don't know that to be the case for sure, because we can't get her counseling, because we can't reach her. We can't reach my child. She believes that we are the problem. So my husband and I have, mainly me, because I live it, I have decided that I've had to put the cross in the ground figuratively, and that no matter what, something good has to come from this. I need to raise awareness that grooming and trafficking and exploiting happens right next to us, that I cannot sit down and shut up about what has happened with my child. I will admit I'm really new to this, so this is a struggle. I was really nervous about this, and there's just so many details that.
So what would you tell other parents out there?
Don't trust.
I mean, you really can't trust anybody nowadays.
No, and I was the person who thought that it took a village to raise a child. I thought there's no way I could mold my child into this incredible human being without the assistance of other people like teachers and friends and family. And my in-laws always said to me, no. They disagreed with me, and we never understood that. We understand that. It does not take a village. You cannot trust who is in that village. You do not trust your children with anybody. Nobody. It doesn't matter if it's your brother, sister's wife, cousin. It doesn't matter if it's the priest, the pastor, the police officer. You do not trust that your child will come home to you just because you think they're good people. We don't live in that world anymore. Do not trust anybody. Do not be stupid. Check the phone. Like, if there's red flags, figure it out. Get rid of the problem. Trust your gut. I knew there were things, and I didn't trust my gut because I didn't want to be the bad guy. I knew I was going up against a woman that my daughter idolized. And I knew I was already having trouble competing with this because this is a little blonde woman, kind of looks like Barbie, all these great things. and I'm her mom, right? How can I compete with this? And so parents, don't trust anybody. Don't trust anybody. If you think it can't happen to you, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. It can happen to you. I was involved in my child's life. I made sure that I was the taxi driver. I knew where they were going, what they were doing, who they were with.
It's not like your daughter was this rebellious kid that you've struggled with for years, and doing drugs and drinking and finding cigarettes and just lying and cheating and stealing. You had what you considered a great relationship with
Yeah,
her.
and when I reached out to the school because I needed resources, I've never been part of something like this. I reached out to a trusted individual at the school, and I told her, not in detail, but enough of what had happened. She literally fell off of her chair because she was so stunned, because she'd known my family for 8 years at this point, and she said, of all children, I can't believe this has happened to you guys, to her. Like, she was so stunned. And I'm going, okay, so I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. Cause in this entire thing, I have felt like a crazy person. There is no way to get through this without feeling like a crazy person. And if I have any recommendations, if anyone is going through any sort of hell, get the help you need first, and step outside of the situation, get yourself well, and then take on the matter for head on. Because the moment on April 17th, when I put the figurative cross in the ground, I was able to start to heal and to move forward. And I was finally able to open up about what had happened to us. Prior to that, I felt like I was the problem. I kept on diminishing what it was that I had gone through, because it's just too great. Who would think that your child is being exploited?
Yeah, I guess all you can really do now is hope when she becomes an adult, that she rethinks things and she doesn't have the mind of a 14-year-old anymore, and that she can think for herself and get some clarity and hopefully come back into your lives. It's really all you can hope for at this point.
And we hope for that all the time. And like the therapist said recently, is even if she does come back, she'll never be the same person that she was. And you're going to have to learn to live with that new version that is not part of you. It's part of those other people who caused the situation. So, and that was hard to hear. That was really hard to hear. I don't know what's going to happen, but what I know for sure is that I'm only in the beginning stages of learning to fight for something like this. And I intend on doing everything I can to raise awareness for this situation within our community, within the system.
Frightening story, Linda. I thank you for coming on and sharing it with us. And parents, you can't trust your kid with anyone, no one. So thanks, Linda.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, there you have it. Man, a frightening story that a child could just basically be snatched away from you, and you could be blocked from access to your child, and charges could be erroneously filed against you, and all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in. Scary stuff. Wow. So, man, guard carefully your kids, and monsters and wolves come in all sorts of clothing. You just never know who has ulterior motives when it comes to your child. So be careful. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week for a new edition. Peace.